People started taking Ozempic to lose weight. Then they stopped recognizing their own desires. At first, it seemed like a coincidence, but then similar stories started showing up again and again. People described the same strange experience. Their minds suddenly felt quieter, as if the background noise that had always been there had faded. And that led scientists to a much bigger question. What if this drug isn't just affecting hunger? What if it's revealing something important about the way the human brain actually works? It challenges a deeply uncomfortable idea. Are we really in control of our own desires? In this video, we're not going to talk about weight loss. We're going to talk about the brain and why Ozempic might change the way we think not only about overeating, but about willpower itself. Let me ask you something. Have you ever binge-watched a show? You know you have to get up early tomorrow. You know you should go to bed, but you can't stop. One more episode, then another and another. Or maybe you've experienced this. You just finished a meal. You're full. But a few minutes later, you find yourself standing in front of the fridge looking for something to eat. You grab something because something is pulling you toward food, and you don't even know why. If any of that sounds familiar, welcome to the club. Most of us think our desires are simply part of who we are. We assume we choose what we want, that we're drawn to food, alcohol, shopping, or entertainment simply because we enjoy them. But neuroscience tells a much more unsettling story. Your brain is literally built around the pursuit of reward. Every second, it's scanning the world for something that might bring pleasure, relief, or stimulation. Inside your brain is a network neuroscientists call the reward system. Every mammal has one. Rats, monkeys, humans. It serves one purpose: to motivate behaviors that help us survive: eating, reproducing, seeking safety. And it does that through a single chemical messenger: dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. Something good happens, dopamine gets released, and you feel good. Except that's not actually how it works. A neuroscientist at the University of Michigan named Kent Berridge conducted a series of experiments that completely changed the way scientists think about dopamine. What he discovered was this: dopamine isn't the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of desire. And those are two very different things. Berridge called this distinction wanting versus liking, and he showed that these experiences are controlled by different neural systems. You can desperately want something and get very little pleasure from it, and you can enjoy something without feeling any urge to do it again. That sounds strange, but that's exactly how addiction works. A person struggling with alcohol addiction wants to drink. The urge can feel overwhelming, almost impossible to resist. But with each drink, the actual pleasure becomes weaker. The wanting is still there, the liking isn't. Because dopamine is a signal of anticipation, a signal of expectation. And anticipation is often more powerful than the reward itself. Your brain doesn't just love rewards, it's obsessed with anticipating them. And for many people, food has become the fastest and cheapest source of that anticipation. Imagine there's a channel constantly running in the background of your mind, and all it talks about is food. What should I eat? When should I eat? What's for lunch? Maybe something sweet? Maybe pizza? This is what researchers call food noise. People who experience it often spend years believing they simply lack willpower, that they're weak, and they just need to get it together. But that's not what's happening. Their brains are working differently. Their reward anticipation system is running in overdrive. Now add modern food to the equation. Food specifically engineered to activate that system. Salt, fat, sugar, combined in ways that never existed in nature. Food scientists literally design products to generate the strongest possible dopamine response. And that creates a vicious cycle. The brain stays in a constant state of anticipation. The food is designed to amplify that anticipation. The brain wants more. The system becomes even more activated. And for a long time, nobody really knew how to break that cycle. And that's where Ozempic enters the story. Ozempic is based on a molecule called semaglutide. It mimics a hormone known as GLP-1, which is normally released by the gut after a meal and tells the brain, "That's enough, you're full." But researchers eventually discovered something surprising. GLP-1 receptors aren't only found in the gut and pancreas. They're also found in the brain, right inside the reward system, at the very heart of the dopamine pathways. And when Ozempic binds to those receptors, it does something very specific. It lowers the brain's perceived value of a reward. The brain still knows food exists, it still knows alcohol exists, it still knows your phone exists. But somehow, those things stop feeling quite so important. People taking Ozempic for weight loss often describe it like this. It's like I finally saw food with normal eyes. Just food, without that constant pull. But Ozempic didn't stop at food. It revealed something so unexpected that scientists were forced to rethink the entire problem. A 2024 study published in the journal Addiction analyzed data from more than 500,000 people with alcohol and opioid-related disorders. People taking GLP-1 medications showed roughly a 50% reduction in alcohol intoxication events and about a 40% reduction in opioid overdoses. That alone was enough to raise eyebrows, but the data kept coming. An analysis of social media posts from more than 2,000 GLP-1 users found that 23% of them either quit smoking or significantly reduced smoking, even though nobody had prescribed the drug for nicotine addiction. They simply stopped wanting to smoke. And then researchers noticed something they hadn't expected. People reported that their shopping addictions disappeared. Compulsive scrolling faded on its own. They stopped binge eating at night after struggling with it for years. And someone finally asked the obvious question. What if alcoholism, overeating, compulsive shopping, and gambling addiction aren't separate disorders at all? What if they share the same neural root, the same dopamine circuitry, the same reward anticipation system, just different triggers? And what if Ozempic, by changing one part of that system, accidentally affected all of them? Stop here for a second. If desire can be reduced chemically, what does that say about desire itself? Are our desires really ours? Do you want a drink because you've consciously decided to have one, or because a neural circuit in your brain was activated the moment you saw a beer commercial? Do you scroll because you're curious, or because an algorithm knows exactly what content will trigger the biggest dopamine response and keeps putting it in front of you? Nobody has a clean answer to that, but one thing is harder to argue with every year. The modern world has become extraordinarily good at exploiting the reward system that evolution gave us for survival. Online casinos, streaming platforms with autoplay, infinite feeds that never end. All of them built around one insight. If you keep the anticipation loop running, people can't stop. And most of us live under that pressure every day, believing the problem is us, that we're weak, undisciplined, that there's something wrong with our character. Ozempic gave us something valuable. It gave us evidence that many so-called willpower problems may actually be neurobiology problems. When thousands of people took Ozempic and suddenly found themselves no longer wanting to drink, smoke, binge eat, or endlessly scroll, many of them reported the same feeling. Not relief, confusion. Because if that desire disappeared so easily, was it ever really theirs in the first place? If it vanished that quickly, were all those years of struggle really a battle against themselves? Or were they fighting chemistry all along? We live in a world that has become an expert at manufacturing desire. Desires that feel like they're yours, but may have been created by someone else. And if that's true, then the question isn't whether we have enough willpower. The real question is whether we even understand what we're fighting against. If you want to learn exactly how marketers exploit your brain's reward system, check out this video next. In it, I break down the specific psychological hooks they use to capture your attention and share 5 practical ways to stop being such an easy target. I'll see you there.